Have you ever wondered why you keep falling for the wrong person, even when you know they're not right for you? Maybe you blame bad luck, timing, or even chemistry, but the truth is often deeper and much closer to home. It's your insecurities, past patterns, and fears quietly steering your choices without you even realizing it. You might be chasing validation, ignoring red flags, or staying with someone just to avoid being alone. In this video, we're uncovering the hidden reasons behind these patterns so you can finally break free and start choosing the love you truly deserve. You know, one of the biggest reasons people keep finding themselves in the same kind of relationship over and over again is because of patterns. Not the cute patterns you notice in your favorite clothes or in your home decor, but the emotional patterns that have been quietly running your life since long before you even realized it. These are the patterns that live in your heart, in your mind, and in the way you respond to love. They're the ones that make you choose partners who knowingly or unknowingly trigger old wounds. It's funny, isn't it? We often think we're making these choices based on logic, or maybe we tell ourselves, I'm just attracted to them. But attraction alone is rarely neutral. It carries weight, meaning, and sometimes a kind of echo from our past. Maybe there was someone in your life, a parent, a sibling, a first love, whose behavior left an impression on you. Maybe love felt conditional, or maybe it was unpredictable, and now, even as an adult, you were subconsciously drawn to people who make you feel that same mix of tension and thrill. You aren't consciously choosing pain, of course, but patterns have a funny way of disguising themselves as love or chemistry. And here's the thing, these patterns aren't about you being broken or doing something wrong. They're about familiarity. Your brain finds comfort in the familiar, even if that familiarity isn't healthy. You might meet someone and there's a strange sense of déjà vu, a feeling that you've known this dynamic before. That's why you might overlook red flags or justify behaviors that you would normally notice in anyone else. It feels like home in a way, even if it's a home that doesn't treat you with respect. But awareness changes everything. When you start recognizing these patterns, you begin to see the moments where your past is showing up in your present. You can pause, take a step back and ask yourself, am I choosing this person because they genuinely fit me or because they remind me of someone else in my past? That's the moment when real growth begins. That's when you can finally start choosing partners who match your life today, not your emotional history from years ago. Breaking these patterns isn't easy. It takes reflection, honesty, and sometimes even professional guidance. But it's possible. And once you do, something magical happens. You start noticing people who feel safe, secure, and exciting in the right ways. You start feeling attraction that actually serves you instead of repeating old wounds. And slowly but surely, the heartbreaks that used to feel inevitable start to become optional. So if you keep asking yourself, why do I fall for the wrong person? Start looking at your own patterns first. The answer is probably not in them. It's in you, in what you've learned, and in how you're ready to grow. Recognize your past, honor it, and then choose differently. Because the truth is, the right love is out there, but it's never going to match the script your old patterns are trying to write. One of the most overlooked reasons we keep ending up with the wrong person is something that sounds so simple, but is actually really powerful: familiarity. And I don't mean familiarity in the cute, oh, we like the same coffee kind of way. I mean deep, emotional familiarity, those patterns and behaviors in a partner that feels strangely recognizable, even if they aren't good for you. Here's the tricky part. Our brains are wired to feel comfortable with what we know, and comfort, as we all know, can be very seductive. Think about it for a moment. Maybe you've been in relationships where someone was emotionally unavailable, or maybe they had a tendency to push you away when you got close. Or perhaps you were drawn to someone who constantly challenged you, kept you on your toes, or even made you feel like you had to prove your worth. Whatever it was, it left an imprint on you. And even if you hated parts of it, part of your brain said, hey, I know this, I understand this, I can handle this. That sense of recognition feels safe, even if it's not. Here's the danger. Familiarity doesn't equal healthy. Just because someone reminds you of a past crush, a first love, or even the dynamics in your family doesn't mean they're right for you. Attraction can be confusing because it often tricks us into thinking that what feels familiar is what we should want. But here's the hard truth. Comfort and history are not indicators of a good relationship. They're just indicators of a pattern you've experienced before. And the thing is, familiarity can feel addictive. It creates this sense of predictability that your brain craves, especially if past relationships were chaotic or emotionally intense. You start to mistake excitement for love, tension for passion, and repetition for compatibility. So you fall for people who mirror old dynamics, even if you swore you'd never repeat them. You rationalize their behavior, excuse the red flags, and convince yourself it's just how love works. But awareness can change everything. Once you start noticing the difference between what's familiar and what's actually good for you, you gain the power to make different choices. You start asking yourself, am I attracted to this person because they genuinely fit me and my life now, or because they remind me of someone from my past? That pause, that question, is where freedom begins. It's where you stop falling into patterns that keep you stuck. Attraction to familiarity is natural, but the moment you elevate awareness over instinct, you start choosing partners who are healthy, supportive, and genuinely right for you. And once you do that, love starts to feel effortless rather than like a reenactment of old emotional scripts. You realize that the right person doesn't just feel familiar. They feel good. They feel safe. They feel like a partnership instead of a replay of the past. So next time you find yourself drawn to someone who triggers old memories or familiar dynamics, take a step back. Ask yourself if it's comfort you're chasing or real compatibility, because the truth is familiarity can be a trap, but awareness can set you free. One of the biggest reasons people keep falling for the wrong person is that they ignore the red flags. And I don't just mean the obvious, he cheated or she lied kind of red flags. I mean the subtle ones, the little warning signs that show up before you're even fully invested. The ones your gut might notice, but your heart decides to ignore. Because here's the thing, ignoring red flags is one of the fastest ways to repeat the same painful patterns over and over again. It's tricky because we often tell ourselves stories to justify what's happening. Maybe you say, oh, they're just having a rough week, or they didn't mean it. That's just how they are. We rationalize behavior that if we were observing it in someone else, we'd call out immediately. And the reason we do this isn't because we're naive. It's because our brain is wired to focus on potential reward rather than risk. We want the connection, the affection, the excitement. So we minimize the warning signs. But here's the catch. Ignoring red flags doesn't protect you from heartbreak. It guarantees it. Every time you overlook small warning signs, you're teaching yourself a dangerous lesson that your needs, your boundaries, or your intuition can be dismissed for the sake of love. And eventually, that pattern repeats because attraction and chemistry often overshadow caution. We see what we want to see and hope the rest will figure itself out. The reality is, red flags are your friends. They're there to help you spot mismatches before you invest too much of yourself. If someone consistently disrespects your time, dismisses your feelings, or refuses to communicate openly, those aren't quirks or learning opportunities, they're signals. And the longer you ignore them, the more likely you are to end up in a relationship that mirrors old pain or disappointment. Awareness is everything here. When you start noticing patterns of ignoring red flags, you can pause before investing emotionally. You can ask yourself, am I seeing the truth? Or am I convincing myself it's okay? That moment of reflection is critical because it's where real change happens. You start protecting yourself instead of chasing the illusion of love. And the beautiful part is, once you begin paying attention to red flags early, you start seeing who is truly right for you. You realize that love doesn't have to be a roller coaster of anxiety and excuses. Healthy relationships aren't about bending over backward, ignoring discomfort, or convincing yourself someone will change. They're about respect, mutual effort, and genuine alignment. So the next time you feel a warning bell in your gut, don't silence it. Don't rationalize it away. Notice it, honor it, and act accordingly. Because every time you ignore a red flag, the cycle repeats. But the moment you pay attention, the cycle ends. And that's when you finally make space for someone who treats you the way you deserve to be treated, without the pain, without the excuses, and without the repeating patterns. One of the biggest hidden reasons people keep falling for the wrong person is something most of us aren't willing to admit. It's about seeking validation. And before you roll your eyes, hear me out. Seeking validation isn't about being weak. It's about trying to fill a part of yourself that feels empty, overlooked, or unworthy. It's that quiet, sometimes subconscious voice that says, if they like me, I'm enough, or if they chase me, I matter. And when that's guiding your choices in love, it can lead you straight into the arms of someone who doesn't value you the way you deserve. Think about it. If you've ever found yourself chasing someone who didn't treat you well or forgiving behaviors that felt off, it's likely tied to this pattern. You're drawn to people whose approval feels earned rather than freely given. Maybe they're distant, unavailable, or inconsistent. And that very inconsistency, ironically, keeps you hooked. Every small gesture of attention or affection feels like a reward, like a confirmation that you are enough, even if deep down you know the relationship isn't balanced. This is where self-worth and love intersect. When your sense of value comes from someone else's recognition, you're constantly at the mercy of their behavior, and people who don't truly respect or value you often exploit that. Sometimes unknowingly, sometimes deliberately. They create a cycle where you're always striving, always proving, and rarely feeling secure. And the more you chase their validation, the more you reinforce the pattern, because your brain starts equating their attention with love. The breakthrough comes when you start shifting that dynamic. Self-worth isn't built on how someone else treats you. It's built on how you see yourself. It's about recognizing that your time, your energy, and your heart are valuable. When you internalize that, you stop tolerating relationships where respect is conditional, attention is inconsistent, or affection feels like a prize. Instead, you start seeking connections where your worth is recognized naturally, where you are appreciated without having to bend or chase. It's not always easy. Old habits die slowly, and the temptation to seek external validation can be strong, especially if you're used to measuring your value through someone else's eyes. But the moment you decide that you are enough on your own, a remarkable thing happens. Type of people you attract changes. You stop falling for those who can't see your value and start drawing in people who celebrate it. So if you keep noting a pattern of falling for people who don't truly value you, pause and ask yourself, am I looking for love or am I looking for validation? Because the truth is, when you're seeking validation from the wrong people, you're never going to feel fulfilled. But when you start valuing yourself first, love becomes effortless, natural, and healthy. That's when the cycle breaks, and that's when you finally find someone who sees you, honors you, and matches your worth in every way. One of the most powerful forces that can lead someone into the wrong relationship is the fear of being alone. And I'm not just talking about the kind of loneliness you feel for a day or two. I mean the deep, persistent fear that if you aren't in a relationship, something is missing in your life. Or worse, something is wrong with you. That fear can push you to settle, to compromise, or to hold on to someone who isn't right for you just so you don't have to feel that emptiness. It's completely understandable. Human beings are wired for connection, and love often feels like the ultimate proof that we matter. But here's the tricky part. When your choices are guided more by fear than by desire or compatibility, you're more likely to end up with someone who doesn't truly match you, who doesn't respect you, or who doesn't meet your emotional needs. You start confusing temporary relief from loneliness with lasting happiness. You've probably been there. You meet someone, and even if you notice they aren't fully aligned with your values or long-term goals, you think, better than being alone. You rationalize away behaviors that make you uncomfortable because the alternative feels scarier. Loneliness can be so loud, so overwhelming that it drowns out the quiet voice inside you that says, I deserve better. I can wait for the right person. That voice is there, but fear has a way of covering it up, making it feel impossible to listen to. But the truth is, choosing someone out of fear never leads to fulfillment. It may fill the immediate gap, but it doesn't build a foundation for lasting love. In fact, it often sets up a pattern where you repeatedly choose partners who aren't right for you, because the fear of being alone keeps overriding your standards. That fear can trick you into tolerating disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional unavailability, all of which chip away at your confidence and self-worth over time. Breaking free from this pattern starts with embracing your own company. Learning to be alone doesn't mean giving up on love. It means giving yourself the space to recognize what you truly need, what you genuinely want, and who aligns with your life in a meaningful way. When you stop letting fear dictate your choices, you gain clarity. You start to attract relationships that feel fulfilling rather than convenient, and partners who are drawn to you because of who you are, not because of what they can get from your fear. It's not easy to sit with loneliness, especially when it feels uncomfortable or when you've spent years trying to escape it. But that discomfort is temporary. Choosing yourself first, building a life that feels rich and satisfying on your own, is what ultimately allows the right person to enter your life at the right time. And when that happens, love doesn't feel like a patch or a fix. It feels like a match. like a partnership, like something you don't have to force or convince yourself to accept. So if you notice that fear of being alone creeping into your decisions, take a breath, step back, invest in yourself. Because the moment you stop letting loneliness drive your choices, you create space for someone who truly belongs in your life, not someone you settle for out of fear, but someone you choose out of love, respect, and joy.